Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the Neca Gargoyles Xanatos Ultimate action figure. I ordered this thing from the last toy store, and it finally arrived today. I'm really excited to get both this Armored Xanatos and the regular Xanatos, who should be coming out in the near future. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see, we have Xanatos in his armored suit, kind of like a gargoyle, red armor like the Steel Clan robot. I imagine there's a lot of reused parts there. Disney Gargoyles Armored Xanatos Ultimate action figure. He's posed up on the castle here. One side you can see him with his mask or helmet on. Other side with the mask or helmet off. On the back, here he is. Got the Johnathan Frakes likeness. Helmet on. Here he is with the Steel Clan. Here's a checklist of a ton of other gargoyle figures. The ones that I see here that are not out is Business Suit Xanatos, Elisa Maza, and Lexington. This is one of NECA's Ultimate figures. Window box packaging. You can hear the Velcro as it opens up. On the inside flap, Xanatos in his gargoyle's armor, and then here he is in the package. So with no further ado, let's open it up. Alright, now that this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He comes with a ton of cool stuff. He's got a total of 6 alternate hands, totaling 8 interchangeable hands, 2 heads, one with the unmasked Xanatos head, and one with the Steel Clan robot helmet. He also has a little thing to go around his neck with his unmasked head. He's got 3 different flame exhaust pieces for his feet and his jetpack on his back, 2 lasers that will attach to his forearms, 2 removable wings, a removable tail, and that's about it. But before we take a look at those, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Xanatos in his armored suit. He was the leader of the Steel Clan, and at first, Goliath didn't even know it was Xanatos. He thought it was just sort of an enhanced member of the Steel Clan robot. He was first introduced in the episode, I believe it was called The Edge. Originally, the Steel Clan were just a bunch of robots, controlled remotely by Xanatos or Owen, but then Xanatos himself joined them. He wanted to see if he had what it took to fight Goliath. And even though he didn't win the day, he held his own. So let's take a look at him. Start with his head here. He's got that armored helmet. It looks just like Goliath, at least a robotic version of Goliath. You can see the hair, very similar. It's got this sort of piping here. I believe that's going to feed him oxygen to David Xanatos. He has shoulder pads, and they're articulated. They will completely get out of the way, not hinder the articulation. Overall, he looks pretty good. You can see the armor on the abs here. It kind of reminds me of Batman Returns. Suit looks great. The red looks fantastic. Differentiates him from the rest of the Steel Clan. We'll look at it in detail later, but I imagine he's probably 90% reused from the Steel Clan robot. You can see he's got his own claws on his hands, just like the gargoyles, except metal. He's going to have this part that's going to pop out and attach the lasers here. He's got what looks like a single-jointed elbow. No, it goes all the way in double-jointed. His knee is definitely double-jointed. Big, giant claws on his feet, the talons on the back. You can see where the tail's going to come in, the exhaust pieces, more exhaust pieces. Overall, it's a very solid-looking figure. Very similar to Steel Clan, but different at the same time. And just a closer look at his face, helmet, and head sculpt. It looks good. Similar to Goliath, robotic, red eyes, stern, kind of angry expression. This figure does come with 2 heads, one with the helmeted gargoyle head, and one with the unmasked David Xanatos head. And then, here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's check out his accessories, and let's start off with his hands. Here are his hands. He has a total of 8 of them, 4 left hands, and 4 right hands. Here he is, with his first set of hands. These are some open hands. They could be some clawing hands, grabbing hands, or throwing hands. And here he is, with his second pair of hands. These are his fists. Then, his third pair of hands. These are his gripping hands. And here's his final pair of hands. These are a pair of open hands. They would look good relaxed at his sides. Some default hands. Now let's check out his heads. He has 2 of them. One with the armored gargoyle helmet on, and then one with the unmasked David Xanatos head. Here he is, with the gargoyle's helmet on. And here's his alternate unmasked head. This is David Xanatos, played by Johnathan Frakes, and the character sure resembles Johnathan Frakes. I had a little trouble figuring out how to do this head. It has a silver ring that goes around the base of the neck, and that was no problem. It makes perfect sense. That's what he has sort of under the helmet. What confused me was his ponytail, and it's like you just sort of have to bend it and let it sit against here. I don't really like that. I wish it could tuck in, or hell, even get pulled off. I tried to put it under this sort of silver pipe thing. Didn't really work. You can't really tuck it in with him, but I feel like this is sort of putting stress on the ponytail. If you keep it like this, or do this a whole bunch of times, it might end badly. His head also looks kind of small and pinheaded, but that also kind of makes sense as he has this giant helmet to go on top of that. So, small head on this giant armored body, because it's really an armored suit on top of his regular body. Now let's check out his tail. It's really long. It is red. It's got a little peg here to plug into the back of the figure. The peg is going to be hinged. It's also going to allow the tail to rotate. You can see it's got all these holes in it to allow for some breathing. The tail itself has a bendy wire in it, so you can sort of put any sort of pose you want. Here's Xanatos with his tail attached. So you get the back, kind of bend it down. Now the great thing about the tail is it's going to allow him to balance. You can have him lean all his weight against the tail in the back, and especially when you add the wings, he's very top heavy. Now in addition to the tail, this is a chance to get the feet correct. So first instinct is stand their feet flat like this, but that is not how the gargoyles stand, nor the Steel Clan. The gargoyles stand with their foot pushed down like this, then their toes push forward about like so, and they get the talon up in the air. So get both the feet like this, and then stand him up and have him leaning back against his tail. I took a sec to kind of get that right. Now you have his toes flat on the ground and his tail behind him supporting his weight. Makes it really easy to stand these guys up. Now let's check out his wings. He has two of them. They've got a little sort of fake talon at the top. The wings are very thin, very flat. Do be careful. I remember the other one, the Steel Clan, plugging this in. I was able to sort of bend one of the wings. Just be careful. Also, one of the tips break off. Now, the wing itself can plug into the back of the gargoyle. That part is going to be hinged. It's also going to allow it to rotate. In addition to that, it's got another hinge up here, so the wing can sort of extend out. And it looks kind of dumb like that. And it can fold all the way in to be a little bit smaller on your shelf. Here's Xanatos with the wings attached. Like I said, makes him rather top heavy. It's exactly why you need to lean him against the tail. Now his wings can be displayed in a bunch of different various ways. This is probably the most common and logical way to display the wings when they're tall up behind his back. These would be sort of how the gargoyles would have them in the relaxed position. You can also outstretch the wings, but I would say go only about as far as where this line will connect. If you go any further, it just looks ridiculous and stupid when they're like this and not connected. And then if you have deep shelves but not a lot of width, you can rotate the wings and put them backward. It will take very, very long in the back, but it's not going to be nearly as wide as before. Now he has the two different lasers. These would come out of his forearms. I was kind of wondering how they're going to handle this, if they're going to have some extra lasers in there that were hinge you have to pull out. But they can break probably pretty easily. This is the most logical way to handle this. You have a different laser that'll peg into the top of his arm. And then here he is with the two lasers coming out of his forearms. Very cool feature to have. Now let's look at his flame exhaust pieces. We have two smaller ones that will peg into the bottom of his feet, and one larger one that will go into the jetpack on his back. They're sort of cast in a semi-transparent orange plastic. Looks pretty good. You can see the peg at the top that's going to attach to the gargoyle. Here are the two pieces attached to his feet. It looks pretty cool. I imagine these can be usable on a bunch of other figures in your collection. And here's the flame piece attached to the back of his jetpack. Also looks pretty cool. You can have him flying around, got the jetpack, things that was coming to his feet. Now, the only thing that's kind of interesting is he has these flame pieces, and he's a flying figure, but there's no flight stand to have him in midair. You'll have to provide your own. And he's a little bit too heavy for a McFarlane DC Multiverse flight stand, so I took two of them and attached one to each one of his sort of legs or knees. Take him, turn him around to the side, and he's kind of in midair with the flame effects. Not exactly the best fit, but it's about the best I can do at the moment. Almost any other flight stands I have, he's way too heavy for. Just he's too heavy for the McFarlane one, but double him up and it kind of works. Now I wanted to check out Xanatos and his gargoyle armor next to a Steel Clan robot and see what the differences are. And there are not a lot of differences besides the obvious paint differences. Taking a look at both these figures, head sculpt appears to be exactly the same. We have some paint differences, thing on his ear. The main noticeable difference is going to be this sort of oxygen tube here. It's going to feed him oxygen inside this robotic suit. Beyond that, I don't think there's anything else different. Armor's the same, legs and feet are the same, wings are the same, tail's the same. They are 100% the same figure, besides this oxygen tube, the paint scheme, and then of course these swappable heads. Now they've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories. Now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing at about 8.5 inches tall, which can translate to about 21.5 centimeters. And if you go to the very top of the wings, about 11.2 inches tall. Now for his articulation. So, let's start with the wings. They are hinged. You can hear them sort of snapping into place, the different sort of ratcheted slots. In addition to that, they can rotate. They're also hinged in the back. And then they're going to be with a little hinge right here. They can go open and then shut. His head here can rotate from side to side. The wings are definitely blocking it with some of the hair. If the wings weren't there, it could do quite a bit more. Up and down about that much. Tilt and rock. The shoulder pads completely get out of the way. They're not going to obstruct anything. Shoulders on a ball joint, they only go out about 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows, they go in pretty far. His wrist can rotate and it's hinged. In his torso here, he's got a ball joint. Rotate around, forward and back. Another one is waist, rotate around, forward and back. Between the two, pretty good range of motion in his torso area, considering he's a big, bulky armored figure. Legs, completely does the splits. Ball joints. They can rotate independently of the ball quite a bit. Then go forward, about that much. Back, a little bit. He's got double jointed knees. Go back pretty far. He's got, I don't know, this ankle, I guess. Forward and back. Rotate. Then his toes, also forward and back with rotation. Then his tail, it's got that bendy wire going on. The base here can rotate, and then it's also going to be hinged. Here's a look at Xanatos. He's looking at the Steel Clan robot, not fully assembled, covered by tarp, but he knows what it's going to be soon. And here are all 6 of his Steel Clan robots assembled, lined up. Here are all 6 of these Steel Clan robots on top of Castle Wyvern. Here's the Steel Clan surrounding Goliath. They all deploy their forearm lasers and get ready to shoot Goliath. Goliath puffs up, gets angry. You see his wings expand. He's getting ready to fight. And here comes the rest of the clan to help defend the castle. The gargoyles are tearing up the Steel Clan robots. You can use the Steel Clan in both a castle type setting or a city street setting. Here are the gargoyles looking up toward the Steel Clan. And here's an image of Bronx. He's got the Steel Clan pinned down, and he's ripping off their forearm cannon with his mouth. After the gargoyles make short work of Xanatos the Steel Clan, Xanatos himself comes out. As far as Goliath knows, it's just another member of the Steel Clan. But he can see their fighting differences and their color differences. Goliath's clan knows this one is the leader. Here's a look at Xanatos and his Steel Clan. Goliath has his clan, and now Xanatos has his as well. Now let's check him out next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Neca Gargoyles figures. Here's Xanatos in his Gargoyle Steel Clan robot armor, next to a Steel Clan robot. They're pretty much exactly the same figure, only one minor difference, and that's going to be the oxygen tube around his neck. Beyond that, exactly the same, and of course, some paint differences. And of course, I did get 6 of the Steel Clan robots. Armor building is my specialty, and now Xanatos has a clan that's every bit as big as Goliath. And let's continue to check him out next to some Gargoyles villains. Here he is next to Demona. Xanatos and Demona work together a ton of times throughout the entire series. And here he is, next to Thalog. Thalog is a clone of Goliath that Xanatos made, and ended up betraying Xanatos. Here's Xanatos in his gargoyle armor, next to Goliath. Goliath was the first figure to kick off the entire Gargoyles line, and Xanatos' armor is based off Goliath himself. You can see a lot of similarities, especially in the face. Then, next to the video game version of Goliath, here he is, next to both Hudson and Bronx, a couple more members of the Manhattan Clan. And here, with Brooklyn and Broadway, a couple more members of Goliath's clan. And here's Xanatos with the most recent Gargoyles release. This is Angela, Goliath and Demona's daughter. Here is Neca's entire Gargoyles collection so far. We have 11 different figures, and there are a bunch more on the horizon. I believe the next one's coming out is going to be Xanatos in his business suit and Elisa Mazza, but I could very well be wrong about that. I thought they were going to come out before Xanatos in his armored suit. We've also seen Lexington, Coldstone. We saw Broadway in a trench coat. There's an upcoming Goliath and Demona 2-pack. And then there have been a lot of teases for Macbeth. I'm super excited for Coldstone. And I really want Lexington to finish out the Manhattan Clan. And I hope this line goes as deep as the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated line did. I used to use this McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman and Hellbent armor as sort of fill in for the Steel Clan or Xanatos and his Gargoyle armor. No longer is this going to be needed. Now let's check him out. Next is some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in, both scale and style-wise, in case you don't know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a NECA figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work my way smaller. But before we do that, let's check him out with some of his NECA brothers. Now, this guy's considerably taller than 7 inches tall, but he's in a big, giant armored suit, and that's why. Here he is, next to some of his NECA brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from NECA Toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, with even more 7-inch scale NECA figures. Then, with some larger, oversized monster NECA figures. These are also 7-inch scale. And now, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures. Here's Xanatos, next to a can of Hunt's spaghetti sauce. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, with some McFarlane toys. And here he is, standing with some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. Then, with some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, with some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, with some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here he is, with some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, Xanatos here is a fantastic action figure. He's large, intimidating, massive. My biggest complaint about him would be the wings. They rattle a lot when you move around. They're not exactly loose, but when the two parts that are separated, it just can shake and click a lot. They're very thin. They're kind of fragile. I bent one of the other ones on the steel clay pretty bad. Broke off one of the little talons at the top. Beyond that, the body's fantastic. Sculpt, paint job, got a metallic paint on the red parts. The articulation is better than I would have expected. If I had to rate this guy, I'm going to give him a 7.5 out of 10. I'm leaning toward an 8. His wings have the same problem. They're just too big and in the way. But at least this one, you can sort of rotate behind him. Good things going for him, and bad things going for him. The flame effects are awesome, but no way to actually use them. No flight stand, and it's really hard to do, even with the flight stands that I have. Still, it's an awesome figure, and I'm happy to add to the collection. Looking forward to the suited Xanatos. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.